Good morning, everyone. Thank you
Morning.
for joining. I see that there are more participants coming in. I will start slowly so that by the main presentation, everyone will be connected. So thank you very much for joining us today. I want to present myself. I'm Alessia Sebillo, and I'm the head of knowledge and innovation here at EASPD. Today you are participating to one of the main and many activities that our knowledge and innovation team organize every year. This is called Knowledge Café. As you know, we organize four webinars per year to give the voice to service providers and users, creating space to exchange ideas, explore emerging topics, exchange good practices and disability services. So every time there is a different topic. Today we are here to discuss a very interesting and sensitive one. I'm talking about the legal capacity and supported decision making for people with disabilities. At the EASPD, at the beginning of the year, we published a report that will be introduced today by one of our colleagues, and that you can also find. We will share it in the chat in a few seconds. This collects many practices from 8 practices from 5 different countries. 2 of it are today presented, and then we have an extra one that we met during the way, and we thought that was still very interesting to present. Just a quick look at the agenda. We will start with an introduction to the topic. Made by Ludmila Malkoci from Keystone Moldova, Director of Keystone Moldova and EASPD board member. After there will be Clara Massé, that is our junior policy officer, presenting you the report, the cases, the countries and the methodology that we adopted. We are also very honored to have 3, as I said, good practices with us today. The first one will be PJ Clear from will be introduced by PJ Clear. It's not himself a good practice from Disability Federation of Ireland, or maybe it is. We will see. We will. And then Ferran Blanco from Support Girona. Thank you, Ferran. And to close with the practices, we have Betty Pillard and Jean-Philippe Copin from UDAF 82. In France. So we will have all the presentation. PJ Clear, unfortunately, has to leave us after his presentation. So if you have any question for him, of course, put it in the chat while presenting so that he can answer to you right away, or it will be done after, even by email, once the webinar is done. And in the end, we will collect all the other questions and to have a very nice discussion. So this is it from my side. And I will welcome our first speaker. So Ludmila, thank you very much. I'm going to share your presentation now. Voilà. Can you see it?
Yes.
Good.
Yes. Good morning to everybody. First of all, I would like to say that it's a very big pleasure, to speak at this webinar, because this is a very interesting topic even for us here in Moldova. We are in the beginning of this process of working on legal capacities and supported decision making. However, the next slide, please. I would like to say that legal capacities is the right to make decisions and be legally recognized, and it is essential for the autonomy and rights of persons with disabilities. Despite the UN CRPD, many people with disabilities are still denied this right. Guardianship systems remain common in Europe and even in European Union, taking away their ability to choose. The UN CRPD, ratified by most EU member states, requires replacing guardianship with supportive decision-making systems. Article 12 asserts equal legal capacity for people with disabilities. In 2014, the committee clarified the difference between mental capacities, that is decision-making skills, and legal capacities and inherent rights. People with psychosocial disabilities are frequently denied legal capacity based on perceived issues with their mental capacity or solely due to their disabilities. Denial of legal capacities sometimes is equal to civil death because it leads to complete marginalization and exclusion from civil society and from society life. The next slide, please. I would like to say that full or partial guardianship can negatively impact several fundamental rights. And you can see on this slide many rights that are impacted negatively by guardianship. But I would like just to focus on access to justice, right to vote and participate in public life, right to marry and have a family, ability to enter into contracts and to open a bank account, and so on. An example of the negative impact of substitute decision-making is when a person with disabilities cannot choose where to live. For instance, an individual may want to live independently with support services, but the substitute decision-maker might decide they should live in a group home or institution, disregarding the person's preferences. This can lead to a loss of autonomy, emotional distress, and a reduced quality of life. Next slide, please. What will be the difference between the substitute decision-making and supported decision-making? In substitute decision-making, individuals with disabilities may be deemed unable to make decisions independently, leading to the appointment of a substitute decision-maker. This process doesn't allow individuals to choose their guardian, and someone can be appointed even against their will, either formally or informally. Substitute decision-making can also occur informally with family members or friends that can take over all decisions, including daily activities, where to live, and healthcare. This contrasts with the principles of EASPD. Supported decision-making allow people to maintain their legal capacities with the help of supporters instead of guardians. In supported decision-making, individuals with disabilities can select trusted people to assist with personal, financial, and legal decisions. Decisions focus on the person's will and preferences, not the best interest standard. And this approach respects the dignity, equality, and unique preferences of individuals with disabilities. Efforts must be made to accurately interpret a person's will and preferences using tailored tools and methodologies. The next slide, please. What are key provisions for supported decision-making? First of all, supported decision-making should be available to all individuals with disabilities, regardless of the level of type of support they may need. Secondly, legal capacities should be determined based on individual ability to communicate and express their will and preferences, rather than on medical or functional assessment. The support provided should always prioritize the expressed wishes and desires of the person with disabilities rather than what others might consider being in their best interest. Safeguard must be in place within legal capacity processes in order to ensure that the supported decision-making approach is followed. And not the last, there should be mechanisms to monitor and review the actions of support persons to ensure they are acting in accordance with the will of the individuals they are supporting. The next slide, please. In addition, the persons with disabilities has the right to choose who will assist them in making decisions. Additionally, the individual retains the right to terminate the support relationships and change the support persons at any time. Regardless of how a person communicates, whether through spoken language, sign language, and so on, they should have access to support. Similarly, financial constraints should not prevent someone from receiving the help they need to make decisions. And the assistance provided should enhance the individual's autonomy and ability to make their own choices rather than restrict their rights. And also governments, they have a responsibility to ensure that even those who do not have a strong support network or community ties can access decision-making assistance. Supported decision-making should protect all rights, including autonomy, choice of residence, freedom from abuse, without, by the way, over-regulating the lives of people with disabilities. The next one slide, please. What can support include? First of all, the persons requiring assistance has the freedom to select whom they trust to help them with decision-making, whether it is a family member, friend, or another trusted individual. Support can include helping the individual to communicate their needs, preferences, and decision to others. People who have difficulties with conventional speech or writing may rely on other forms of communication, such as sign language, picture boards, or digital communication devices. This also involves helping the individual to document their preferences and decisions ahead of time, so that this can be referred to if the person is unable to express them in the future. And not the last, peer support. This refers to assistance provided by individuals who themselves have similar experiences or challenges. Support also needs to include various measures that can ensure the supported decision-making to be implemented in a good way. And here we can say about the need for universal design approach, ensuring that all products, environments, and services are usable by all people to the greatest extent possible. We shall talk about reasonable accommodation with modifications and adjustments that allow persons with disabilities to enjoy on equal basis with other all human rights. That can include assistive technologies that can enable individuals with disabilities to participate equally in any aspect of life, and not the last, accessible information, which is key to ensure that people with disabilities are empowered and provided with comprehensive information that enable them to make decisions about their lives. The next one slide.
Yes, and you have 2 minutes.
Okay. What shall governments to do implementing supported decision making? And here I would like to say that governments should focus on changing legislation to replace substitute decision making framework with supported decision making models. Traditional assessment that determine a person's mental capacities should be abolished in favor of frameworks that provide the necessary support for individuals to exercise their legal capacities. Government must ensure that persons with disabilities have access to support they need based on their needs. Also, adoption of a co-production approach involving persons with disabilities in all decisions. Safeguard and reporting mechanisms need to be established to ensure that all abuses will be prevented, and evidently to conduct training sessions and awareness campaigns to promote a shift in mindset and practice among all stakeholders. And not the last, to shift to self-directed support to empower persons with disabilities to take control over their life. To make a connection with the next presentation, I would like to say that European Association of Service Providers had several initiatives to promote supported decision-making. First of all, in 2023, it was a position paper on legal capacities and supported decision-making, and the paper included recommendations for national and EU policymaker and service staff. And in the end, we have this report with the best practices on supported decision-making. And during this webinar, some of the best practices will be presented. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I could not find the microphone. Thank you very much. I mean, you raised so many questions to my mind, and it's a very, very interesting and passionate topic. So we will collect, as I said, all the questions for the end. So the next to present, it's our Clara, presenting the report that we prepared beginning of the year. So Clara, the floor is yours, and I will tell you when you are missing 2 minutes.
Yes, thank you very much, everyone. So for those that not know me, I'm Clara, a junior policy officer at EASPD. So like Ludmila and Alessia introduced, I will present you the collection of promising practices on legal capacity and supported decision making that EASPD released at the beginning of the year. So on the PowerPoint that will be shared after with you will have the link and all of the relevant information. So first, I would like to explain you what were the criteria and how we selected the different practices. So there were 6 different core criteria. So the first one was for the practice to be in line with the UN CRPD. So meaning that the practice should put the person at the center of the practice, allowing agency and autonomy and the right to express his voice, choice, and control over his life. So this brings us to the second criteria that is about being person-centered. The third one is about empowering individual. So the practice must allow the person to speak for themselves about their needs, their will, and what they wish, and be involved in the process. The fourth one is accessibility and inclusivity. So these promising practices are always done with a professional, and there is a need to have an equal relationship between the two and an equal participation and engagement. And for that, there is a need to have a tailored communication method used between professional and person with disabilities to be supported. And the two last and very important criteria are the necessity to preserve the dignity of risk, meaning that people must be allowed, like everyone, to do mistake and to take decisions that can include risk. And the last one is the necessity for people to make their own decision with support, but without any coercion or undue influence from external people. And based on those 6 criteria, we selected 8 different practices in 5 different countries. And I will give you a little snapshot of the legal framework of the country of the promising practices, but I won't focus on the 3 countries that will be presented because the person in charge will actually introduce you to this framework. But in the case of Belgium and Cyprus that are not country presented here. So for Belgium, the supported decision making is run by the 2013 legal framework that promotes it and that make incapacity the exception rather than the rule. And if a person is judged that he needs support, there are different assistance regimes that are offered to him, and all of these different regimes put priority on the autonomy and the right of people to choose and take decision. And within Belgium, in the case of Flanders, there are even more positive legal framework that allow people to exercise their legal capacity, such as the introduction 10 years ago of personal budget that allow people to access the money and to spend it to select the different support care they want to have. And finally, in the case of Cyprus, so legal capacity, they have still a guardianship regime, but it's only if the person is deemed not able to act independently, and there is a more and more action in the country to go toward more supported decision making. It's really at the heart of the discussion currently. And like I said, I won't detail for France, Ireland, and Spain, since it will be presented by the other speakers. Sorry. Concerning the different practices, so we identified 4 different types of practice. So the first one is person-centered planning. So several practices are about supporting people in taking decisions in their daily life and planning their future. So it's really like about establishing support plans for the life of the person with the support of the workforce. The second one is about raising awareness and training service provider and professional to change the way they provide care and support in a way that is based on supported decision making. The third one is about empowering people with disabilities, so making them aware about the fact that they have rights, that they have legal capacity, and how they can make use of it. And the last one is about raising awareness in society. So it's practices that want to push for a mindset shift in the country. It's the case of Spain and the ONCE Foundation that want to, because it's not only having legal changes that is necessary, but it's to have changes, in the mind of people with disabilities, their families, but also all of the professionals that support them. So we actually thought being those 4 types of practices was really relevant to show how supported decision making is not only about directly supporting people, but making a bigger societal change. And to finish, I would like to present you briefly the common benefits that were identified for people with disabilities and the professionals among different practices. So, for instance, those practices allows people with disabilities, like I said, to be aware about their rights, to broaden their perspective, so to plan their future. This also allows them empower them to take their own decision, to really participate in the daily management of their life, and overall this is really enhancing their quality of life and their participation in the community. And for professionals, it's also very beneficial because it allows them to create a stronger bond with the people they support, to have a better understanding of the need of people and how they can support them in a way that empower people with disabilities to take the lead of their life. And because of that, this really creates a total change in the mindset of people, but also in the cultural organization of those different profession and organization. And overall, it's definitely increasing professional well-being.
You have 2 minutes, Clara.
Yes. So I'm going to conclude on the obstacles. So of course, different obstacles and barriers in implementing supported decision-making were put forward by professionals. So for instance, the difficulty for people with severe or profound intellectual disabilities to express their needs and wills and preferences, but also the fact that those processes can be very long and complicated for the professional that have also to implement it. It's request a lot of resources. It can be very time consuming. And there is also still a lot of stigma and misconception about the right of persons with disabilities to take decisions about their life. So even if the law is there, the support is there, the supported decision making can actually be prevented to being really applied in the reality. And very quickly, because Ludmila already said it, to conclude, we have a broad advocacy on the topic of legal capacity, and this collection of promising practices is just a piece of it. So there is this position paper that Ludmila mentioned, and overall what EASPD is doing is advocating for the European Commission to not only conduct a study on the topic of legal capacity of persons with disabilities, as it was planned in the strategy on persons with disabilities, but to more broadly develop guidance and recommendation on legal capacity and supported decision making in order for member states to really implement change. That's it for me. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Clara. Everything was very clear. I mean, I think that also taking, the elements on the challenges and the advantages of, moving forward in this direction were very well, shown. So thank you very much. I mean, of course, the report, the paper is part of a larger work that we are doing. And in order to talk with the Commission to, explain why and how things can be done, we need people that are doing the job, that are doing the work at local level. So that's why we decided to give the space to 3 practices that we recognize as very valuable for us in this work that we do. And we will start with the first one from Ireland. PJ, do you have the presentation, or you want me to share the presentation? Sorry, we didn't agree.
You can share it. Thank you, Alicia. It's there anyway, so.
Okay. A second. Voilà, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Can you see the presentation yet? You can. Great. Good morning to everybody. How are you all? I will try. Thank you, Alicia, I would say, for letting me know about the 2 minutes, because I could talk for Ireland and probably have medals somewhere for it. So
I know, I know.
Stop
That's my
me.
job.
So stop me. First of all, just to say to you that Ireland ratified the UNCRPD, just to give you a background, in 2018. And the optional protocol was only ratified in November of 24. So the Assisted Decision Making Act was in 2015 and was fully enforced or begun to be enforced properly in 2023. So we're kind of new into this. But having said that, the most important thing about it is that it recognizes everybody's legal capacity to make decisions regardless of their disability, and unless proven otherwise. I think that's the most important piece of it. It has to be proven otherwise. And there are 3, I suppose, main different decision-making support pieces, arrangements. The first one is decision-making assistance agreement, and that's where somebody has somebody to help them. They nominate somebody. The second one is co-decision making agreement, which is joint agreement. And then there is decision-making representation, which is a court decision. And there is also an advanced healthcare directive where the person, this is very important even in principle, because it separates the person's life with the healthcare side. So it's basically saying, there is also a healthcare directive, which means that they can decide how they want their healthcare and any other supports. So I think that's really important, because it recognizes the person first and the healthcare needs second. We're not fully aligned with the UNCRPD yet. In that sense, it'll take years, they're saying, for the courts to come around to it and to people to understand it. I think as well as that, and I'm going to say this as well in our own, in my own piece here, that we also we have culture to overcome. And that is, the thinking that people would have had for generations about people with disabilities in society. So I think that's going to be the same for everybody. And that's what we did when we started this process. So Alicia, if you wouldn't mind, the next slide. Thank you very much. Thank you. So who is DFI? Very quickly, we're a representative body for over 100 voluntary organizations who provide services to people with disabilities. Not all our members are disability service providers. Some of them are social inclusion organizations. So that's really important to say, like the broader concept of equality. But DFI is the only pan-disability umbrella group in Ireland, which means our organizations support people with mental health issues, with neurological conditions, with physical and sensory, and intellectual disability. So it's quite a broad membership. Next one, please, Alicia. Thank you. Where does all of this sit with DFI, self-advocacy, for example, in action? Well, our vision in DFI is that a society where disabled people are meaningfully included and actively participating in all areas of life. making their own decisions with the supports that they identify as required. The DFI self-advocacy program, which is what we'll talk about here today, is trying to bring that vision to life, ensuring that disabled people themselves lead and shape our advocacy and policy agendas as well. But they also play a fundamental and foundational role by upholding the core principles of inclusion, dignity, and self-determination. Their voices ensure that we remain accountable ourselves and authentic in our representation. The constitution of our organization recognizes people with disabilities as our core company members. And that's basically the principle that forms our strategic foundation in DFI. At an operational level, the role of self-advocates is increasingly embedded in the board, advisory groups, advocacy and policy work streams. So basically, if you were to come to DFI 50 years ago, you would say, oh, it's an organization for service providers. But in actual fact, everything has changed with us over those years, and we have completely turned that on its head. Next one, please, Alicia. Thank you. So the DFI self-advocacy program, this came about actually, just to say to you, it was set up in 2022 officially as a structure, but my background was community development and youth work. And I also had a spate of time, I should say, with the Council of Europe as a trainer. So for me, it was always about equality, social inclusion, empowerment, and so on. So as far as setting it up, it was actually about 10 years or more actually in operation before we set it up as a structure. One of the things I think is really important, and I took this actually from one of the things that Ludmilla had said and also of Clara, and that is that we have 3 key stakeholder groups. Our DFI member organizations, but the frontline staff, I think, is the key to an awful lot of making it a reality. And I come back to that. And of course, self-advocates themselves. We set up an advisory group for the program in 2022. We have 4 meetings per year of the full group since 2022. And we set it up as a space for peer learning, peer support, sharing, identifying training, resources. We also have policy updates and training. It's a best practice knowledge hub, as Clara kindly put into the report, but that's actually what we do. We try to share best practice. And also we're there to help the member organizations. We are working together, and I think that's really important. It's a partnership, and we're working together to maximize the opportunities of the UNCRPD for independence and inclusion, but also for the organizations. Next slide, please, Alicia. Thank you. So we look at each stakeholder group, both individually and collectively. So the member organizations, we look at them and see what their needs are, and we work with them to gain access to the supports and the resources that they need. Because the culture, as you know, in service provision had been over the many decades, here's a program we're offering. Do you want it or do you not? But now they need to understand, and they are understanding, that self-advocacy in their organizations is what's most important, that people are self-directed. So they need to change the culture sometimes in their organizations. Self-advocates gain the supports and the training that they need to use their voices more effectively. So they need to build their capacity, basically. Contribute more effectively in framing their services, and to develop a culture of self-advocacy in the member organization. Contribute to the DFI advocacy. So, we come to them, we ask them, like, are we on the right track here? What is a big issue for you all? And ensure that our work remains relevant to their needs. And engage in local decision-making structures which impact our lives. People are people, and they don't live in the organizations, they live in communities. And so basically, we feel that if they can build the capacity within the organization to speak out, and they have a structure and supports to do that in capacity, we also enable them and link them in through their member organizations and individually with decisions that are taking place in local government and other areas. So they're involved in consultations in their communities as well. The frontline staff are really important because we noticed a gap. The gap is that those frontline staff are with people with disabilities every day. They're supporting them in their programs. They're helping them to understand things. They've built relationships of trust, but their own training has gaps. Their training may have been much more around the disability or whatever, and manual handling and all of that, but not about facilitation skills, group work skills, understanding self-advocacy, and so on. So we offer training to them and supports that they need to facilitate and empower self-advocates, not disempower them by looking at, oh no, you couldn't possibly do that, but actually to say, you can do that and we'll do this together. And they also had their own voice to find within their organizations in developing a culture of self-advocacy. So over 2023, all 3 stakeholder groups identified the need for some kind of an accessible toolkit to support them in developing self-advocacy in practice. So next slide, please. So, one back, thank you.
Sorry, and consider the 2 minutes from now, okay?
That's okay, that's perfect. So the self-advocacy toolkit was a co-created toolkit, and it's created by and with people with disabilities, with the frontline staff and the member organizations. And we met in 3 different parts of Ireland. So we brought all the people together and with the support of the advisory group. And basically what we did was we basically said to them, what do you need? And what do you need to make self-advocacy real? So the self-advocacy toolkit is a hybrid in the sense that the member organizations can use it to set up their self-advocacy structures. The frontline staff use it to support self-advocacy groups, and self-advocates can also download it and use it themselves. There's a lot of templates and resources. So the draft toolkit was co-created and piloted in 2024 and in 5 regions of the country, and it was launched in April this year. It's now live and available as a DFI member-only resource, so people can actually download it, and you can see it there. There's a link to it there on the presentation. But if you go to the DFI website, disability-federation.ie, you'll be able to actually see where it's laid out there. I'm going to ask if it's something that you want, that you want access to. I'm going to ask if it's possible to give my colleagues access to it, or our colleagues access to it. Last slide, please, I think, or second last anyway. There's lots more to tell you about it, lots more that we could talk about. So if you have any questions or you want to find out anything more, there's my details, lads. I'd be delighted to talk to you and also to learn from you. And I'll be looking at I'm so sorry I have to run, but because actually, ironically, this morning we have put together a new self-advocacy managers network, and it's the first inaugural meeting of the group. And so there's about 30 or 40 people joining us online for a session on what do they need from us to support them to support self-advocacy in the organization. So that's why I'm running this morning. So it's ironic, but it's fitting. So thank you very much, lads, and apologies. Yeah, and please do remember to write down any questions you might have, lads. Thank you.
Thank to you. And I know that you are squeezed between meetings. We will collect, as I said, all the questions that we will have. We will also share with everyone the slides so that people can, in case, contact you directly. The idea is really to create and to network also in these cases. So I only have one question for you. I mean, I'm very big fan of the peer learning and co-creation activities, and I wanted to know from you very few seconds the time that you have how specifically in this case for the toolkit, how the process for the co-creation was put in place.
Yeah, there were a number of processes. One of them was to have, as I say, our members are around the country. So some people could come online only because of transport issues or being in a rural area. So we created workshops where we went through the process with people, and anybody who needed support from, for example, personal assistants or frontline staff were to engage, to talk about some of the issues that they want, some of the things that they found, the challenges that they found in self-advocacy. So the very first piece was, and I think maybe this is an experience for a lot of people, and that is, do I actually have the right to speak out. That was initially, it was one of the first things. I remember one of the first things that somebody said to me actually was, and I put it up on a poster at one point. I never liked gravy on my dinner, but I didn't feel I had.
Oh no. Let's see. I think that we got the message anyway on even very simple things were not shared, and people felt that they were not allowed to even say that they didn't like something for dinner. So let's see if we can have PJ back. Otherwise, anyway, we will thank him very much for his presentation. And as I said before, all the questions that come to your mind, of course, go ahead and put it down in the chat. So the next
I
presentation.
lost you all there for a second.
Yes, yes.
What I was going to say very quickly, I'll just answer your question. I don't know what part of the answer.
I mean, you stopped on the sentence of someone saying that they didn't like
gravy in their dinner, but never
Yes.
felt that they had the right to say so, or never felt that it was okay to say so. And then now the person has actually said to me then, you know, now I am talking about my housing, my transport, my healthcare, so it goes from there, from very basic things. So that the process was actually to build people's capacity first to feel, and then in parallel, working with the frontline staff who were working with them every day, so that they understood as well that this is a process and that they can either empower that process or they can disempower it. So basically, so part of the process was to build their capacity first, and then to create the kind of sessions and workshops where people felt comfortable, secure, and immediately we just said things like, for example, this is a safe place. You can say what you need to say here, always. So it was about the environment and so on. And then people started talking about the challenges to self-advocacy, and then said, well, how can we help you to do, what do you think might help? So we coaxed them to basically tell us what they felt might help. And so all of that stuff was put into their toolkit. And when we got the draft ready, we asked 2 organizations to come forward to help us to pilot it. So they piloted it in 5 regions with over 70 people in real settings who were actually working on self-advocacy. And what's really important as well is in our organization, all of our organizations are from very, very large to very, very small. A mother and father
So
operation.
you had very large scale of representation.
Yes. So we needed the toolkit to be so flexible that anybody could use it and add to it if they wished. So as well as that, we made sure that it's also an organic toolkit in that we're saying this is not the gold standard here. This is actually a toolkit. It's your toolkit. But every time, if you see that there's something missing, if you think that something could be better, you tell us and we'll work together and we'll make it better. So it's a living document. It's a living toolkit.
Great.
So, yeah. So,
thank you very much. So stay with us until you can, of course, but whenever you have to leave, we understand.
Thank you very much, lads.
Thank you again.
It's lovely to meet you this morning. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so we jump from Ireland to Spain. So next, yes, presentation is from Ferran Blancoros from Support Girona.
Thank you, everyone. Just by starting, I'm Ferran. I'm a social worker and the head of projects and development, and kind of like legal capacity and support decision making is my topic of expertise. So I think I am in the right Knowledge Café and webinar. First of all, where are we located? We are from an organization in a region of Catalonia. Catalonia is a region in Spain with 8 million inhabitants, and our province, our region in Girona, It has 800,000 inhabitants. We are a region with that density of population. The landscape of services providing support decision making in Catalonia is very rich because there are 54 organizations providing support decision making services in Catalonia. And we offered our service to more than 10,000 persons that are under our supervision, under our support, as from 23. That is the latest data from the statistics. We offer support to 1,437 persons, and we are the biggest organization in Catalonia by volume. But there are other organizations that are also growing and are doing very similar things that we do, such as Som Fundació, which is also in the report, such as Fundació Més2. There are a lot of organizations with also good practices, but today I will explain what we do at our organization, Support Girona. First of all, a little bit of a heads up in relation to our legislation. Spain and Catalonia have different legislation regarding legal capacity because Catalonia has competences on drafting their own civil code. That means that the reforms happened in 21 in Spain in 21, and we are with different civil codes and different mechanisms that are quite differential between them, because in Spain, the reform in 21 bet on curatorship as a mechanism to provide support decision making to individuals. And in Catalonia, we updated, we improved the assistance of previous mechanism that we had in our civil code in this temporary legislation. Needless to say that Catalonia is in a process where there is still the comprehensive reform on the civil code, on the civil legislation to be approved in the parliament. But just a heads up on what is coming. We will continue to bet on the assistance, and we will improve the different models, different typologies of assistance. We're trying to also regulate or improve the informal support that the person can receive to make and materialize their own decisions. One important thing on both mechanisms, the Spanish and the Catalan ones, is that both can include the representation of the person in exceptional situations. But the reality is that this exceptionality, it's the rule, at least since its implementation from 2021. And why is that? Because we are still seeing that the court, that the justice system still relies a lot on the evaluation of the support needs based on biomedical criteria. That means that the forensic examination, that the report from doctors, that the biomedical model, the biomedical approach on disability still relies a lot on the diagnosis, on the particular typology of disability to approve the support that the person needed, instead of betting for a more psychosocial or social approach towards disability, such as including reports from what the person can do from a social point of view, from a psychological point of view, etc. That conduces the court system to de facto still limiting, in most cases, the legal capacity of persons with disabilities, as the representation is still very prevalent in the court rulings. That means that we are experiencing an abuse of representative measures still. But still, we need some pedagogical and more training to do in juridical operators and also in society. And this is part of the good practice that I will explain later. We believe in Support Girona that the Article 12 on the equal recognition before the law, it's our lighthouse. It's our lighthouse because it's our essence, but because it's also the gateway to other rights, such as the right to access to justice, such as the right to live independently and included in the community, the right to education, the right to form a family, the right to be free from exploitation and abuse. And each of one of those rights represents some challenge that it's not covered only by the reforms on legal capacity and developing support decision making. But enough on legal terminology. What is the good practice that I will try to explain? We, since 2014, that we started reading the general comment number 1, we try to identify how can we improve the service that we provide to persons in relation to support decision making. And we identified this process, the decision-making process that applies to every decision, applies to every person, regardless if it has a disability or not. It's a process that we make every day, directly and indirectly, conscious, unconsciously, to make decisions. And we like to say also that making a decision is easier, but we need to think how to manage or how to materialize a decision. And this is important and more important than ever with persons with disabilities, because they need more often than not the support of services, the support of external services, the support of family members, the support of general society to materialize this decision. And it's very simple. It's first we identify the different options regarding a decision, we access and obtain the information, we understand or help the person understand and interpret the information, we evaluate and ponderate the impact and consequences of the different decisions of the different options. And when we have ourselves the decision taken, then we communicate the decision to our beloved ones, to our professionals, to our family, in order for them to be aware that we want to make that call, that want to pursue our goal, no, a specific decision. And then we plan the actions to materialize the decisions in terms of coordinating the resources, joining different services, or searching pathways or avenues to materialize, to make the decision in practice. And this is something that it's not easy to do, because to be able to provide a good support, we need to have a clear map of all the resources, of what the social services are available and what are the different services in society that can help materialize this decision. And I highlighted in red one final step that I don't know if it's final or should be foreseen in advance, which is the bit on safeguarding and risk management, because more often than not, when we are helping persons make decisions, the risk management and the safeguarding is something that we don't have, or we don't know how to develop or implement in practice. Because safeguarding, as per the convention, as per Article 12, means that we need to allow persons for positive risk-taking, but also we need to foresee situations where abuse and undue influence might happen. And we need to try to develop actions to prevent that. And this is something that we need to have a more clear conversation and more debate around that, because it's something that, despite the reforms, we don't have solved in a way, no, as a society. And in this process, we would like to say that support decision making process is a form of life management, which is kind of like helping the person planning their own life, but also managing decisions to be able to succeed in their own life plan. And for you to understand, or for me to explain, it boils down to the different types of decisions. For example, in relation to financial issues, it's not the same deciding how a person needs to manage a weekly allowance that deciding or helping a person manage their salary, providing or their income from a job. And of course, we can elevate the complexity if we think on how to support a person handling, for example, some inheritance or some stocks, thinking on how to manage these decisions in complex financial issues. No? And the same applies for For example, for health-related decisions. It's not the same supporting a person appointing a doctor appointment or a doctor visit, that helping a person or supporting a person debating with their doctor a treatment, a pharmacological treatment change, or supporting a person that wants to undergo a cosmetic procedure. No, every decision has its nuances and its complexities, but that is part of the life planning and the life management of a person's life, and it's part, an essential part of what we do as an organization and how we operationalize in a way the assistance that we provide to the person. This is a little bit what we do in as a life management, but we also
I have to give you the 2 minutes. Huh?
2 minutes, yes. We are also very conscious that understanding this process of legal capacity, support decision making, and enabling the person to make positive risk-taking decisions involves a lot of training, a lot of pedagogy, not only because we need to empower persons with disabilities, we need to raise awareness also with family members, but we also need to help persons realize that making decisions contribute to their identity building. So that's why we develop a lot of trainings, not only for persons with disabilities, but also to frontline staff, but also to external staff in different aspects, in different topics: life management, legal capacity, complex interventions, DI, community-based services, non-coercive intervention, human rights, personal assistance, personal budgets. It's a complex thing when we are talking about legal capacity and support decision making. But just let me finish with saying that despite the legal reforms on legal capacity, there are still gaps in our country, for example, in relation to legislation on coercive measures, involuntary placement, involuntary treatment. And this is something that is common around all the European Union, for sure. And there is also challenges in relation to medical consent, which the legislation is still not updated. But on a positive fashion, I'm happy to say that the personal budget schemes that was mentioned and it's implemented in Flanders, it might have, or it will be implemented in Spain and in Catalonia shortly, hopefully. That's at least the narrative that we are hearing, because at the end, legal capacity and support decision making, it's about enabling persons with disabilities to have or to develop choice and control over their own lives. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was a super complete and very, very interesting. I mean, I also have a few questions, but I will come back to those later after our final presentation of the last cases from France. So I leave the floor to Betty and Jean-Pierre that could finally attend and be here with us. So welcome, Jean-Pierre. We didn't say hi to you before, and I leave you the floor.
Hello, thank you, everyone. Can you see my presentation correctly? Is it the right screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Hello. Just joined this cafe. My name is Betty.
But now we cannot hear you anymore.
Oh, sorry. Is it better
now?
now?
Yes.
Okay, good. So thank you for having us. My name is Betty Payard, and I currently work as a researcher and research facilitator here at the UDAF. I will be speaking today with Jean-Pierre Copin, who is a professional guardian here at the UDAF 82, and he will be presenting the experimental project we've chosen to introduce today. So we are a nonprofit organization based in the southwest of France, in Montauban. One of our main activities is legal guardianship of adults in a variety of vulnerable situations, kind of like Support Girona, actually. Hi, neighbors. So as of today, our country, France, hasn't shifted away from the best interest paradigm, which is a classical paradigm in guardianships. And within this framework, the problem seems to be a person's inability or incapacity to defend that said interest, whether they have defined what their best interest is, or whether it is defined by their environment of professionals and relatives. And the solution to that problem is legal incapacitation. As of 2024 and 2023, it concerns over 1 million individuals in France, and 1,400 people being supported by professional guardians at the UDAF. There are 2 levels of incapacity. We have a tri-party system. The first one is the tutelle, which is a 100% legal representation and substitute decision-making protective measure for all major and minor acts of life. The second one is the curatelle, which is supposed to be less restrictive. It only concerns specific acts which were decided by the judge. But in reality, it's very difficult for people to access the rights they, in theory, have the rights to exercise because of third-party professionals and office workers often calling guardians to solve a problem, for example. And last but not least, we have temporary dispositions, legal dispositions, that set the ground for needed support for vulnerable individuals and do not limit legal capacity, but they are often temporary and more often than not used as a entryway to more restrictive and legally incapacitating measures. So it's quite limited. As we all know, any limitation of legal capacity is discriminatory, especially on the basis of disabilities, and a violation of human rights, human fundamental rights. It creates a category of second-hand citizens, and it's something that we take very seriously here. As an organization working in the field of guardianship and protection, we have to shift away from that paradigm, from the best interest paradigm and substitute decision-making. However, we also believe that as of now, and as it is practiced today, many people feel reassured to have that professional presence of a professional guardian. It's reassuring to a lot of people. And also many people would not know that other systems exist and how to implement them. So no brutal change of the law is necessarily beneficial if there are not, if as a society we did not invent and anchored robust practices to support that change. And so we're working to invent and anchor such best practices to accompany a change of legislation. So over the years, our organization, the UDAF, has tried to develop into some kind of a laboratory of experimentations. We have taken part in many projects and many initiatives. For example, we co-founded a mixed community of research that involves people with disabilities being supported by legal guardians at the UDAF, professionals, as well as sociologists and other academics. We also started training our teams in the Quality Rights Program. And last but not least, the most recent example of what we do is creating experimental projects. And the one we're presenting today is the Témoin project. Témoin stands for Experimental Territory of Lesser Incapacitation, loosely translated from French, but that's what it is. It is funded by the International Foundation for Disability Applied Research, or FIRA, from the French also. And Jean-Pierre, who is my co-speaker, will explain to you in more details what it is about. Jean-Pierre, you have the floor.
Okay, I had technical problems. I hope you hear me clearly. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, wonderful. Hello, I'm Jean-Pierre. I am a legal guardian, but now I'm not a legal guardian. I am a experimental guardian. Like said Betty, we will begin in some weeks an experimental project that will set in Montauban, where the UDAF is settled, and in 30 kilometers in the north of Montauban, in a little town that named Caussade. We try to have two areas with a middle town and a little town to have different people and different areas of living. So that's important for us because we have only 30 persons. That's not that's less, but we hope we can develop a French-style decision-making aids to rising awareness of the environment of people on the protection, and we hope we can creating circle of support, formal and informal networks. The UDAF and myself will play a facilitating role. So 30 volunteers will be involved in the project. The contractualization of this experiment, which has no formal or legal framework, will be based on the DIPM, individual protection document that we used in our job, which sets out the areas of work with the protected person in terms of their expectation, needs, project, desired stages, the degree of autonomy expected, and the autonomy to be envisaged, and all areas of social life. That's important. Circle of support may also propose other areas of work with the people. The aim will be to guarantee people's autonomy as much as possible and to work with them to clarify the consequences of certain choices. Mistakes are also a driving force in learning to be autonomous. Is it essential for us to ensure that the agreements are adapted to the context of the person and that their content and objectives can be modified at any time? This experiment should enable the players involved to question the protection measure. So that's important. We want to develop something new. And that's in order to modify its nature and objectives. The method of intervention used by social workers should also make it possible to reduce the extent to which people are incapacitated. For me, it's new, and I hope I will visit soon Catalonia, Ireland, to learn much. For what you have is not an experiment, it's in the real life for people on the disabilities. Voila.
To quickly conclude, thank you, Jean-Pierre. Here are the things and main results for the project you should expect from us. So scientific articles and publications, a research blog that is currently under construction, but that should be really the forefront of communication. And last but not least, tools and resources for all involved. So that means professionals, but also people with disabilities being placed under guardianship. Thank you for listening to us.
Thank you very much. I didn't need to give you the time. That's perfect. You did great. And just one question before opening the floor to anyone else that wanna ask you whatever they have in mind. But so the project Témoin, it's a new project. It's starting now, or yes. So you don't have yet any data. You are going to collect, I suppose, like the impact on. Did you already have this in mind? How you will evaluate then the impact that your action are going to?
Not yet. It's absolutely new.
Yeah.
Okay, we sell our experiment on the base of what will be done in other countries. It's
okay.
I think it's interesting, and for me, I have absolutely to visit and ask so many questions I have to ask. But you know, French right is not so easy to handle, and so we have to try experiment with security. I'm very interested of risk management. It's very important. We have to work with the judges too. We will meet them on Friday, this Friday. So no, we have nothing to comment dire, to settle this experiment. It's absolutely new. I hope September, October we have the first data to and we work on the basis that we can make mistakes, so we have to correct them, and the mistakes the people can make too. We have to handle with it. So I hope in 6 months we can say it's a little bit more.
Okay. Voilà. I mean, of course, this is a long process, but for me, it's also very interesting to, to see how also you were inspired or you're willing to meet other experiences in other countries. This is what we do, why we are here today. So it's nice to hear. So
if I just may add on this,
yes.
We already have a mobility project, and we have started going to other countries to visit,
exactly.
And really get inspiration from and tighten relationships with the international and European community specifically. We do not have data yet, but we do have an idea of the methodology we intend to use, and that is the pragmatist framework and the sociological inquiry in a collaborative way. So we will explain it more in the future, but we can talk about this.
Thank you for pointing this out. So, okay, we still have more or less 10-15 minutes. So for the discussion, I invite the participant, of course, to raise their hand and to write in the chat. Meanwhile, I do have, I have many questions, actually, many points, but I was my first very day of work here at the EASPD was in Spain with Ferran, where introduced me really to this this concept, and what for me is and my first question to all of you is how you think that we can really make people aware and empowered in making their own decisions, especially in a context where till today the communities, the rest of the population, more or less, consider them not able to take a proper decision, to able to have their own choices, make their own choices. So how can we really, on one hand, make them empower them, but also on the other hand, how we can keep raising the awareness among the communities, or what you are doing, how you are doing?
I will just react to the question by saying that it's a step-by-step process. It's not realistic to expect that a person with a disability that has been protected by the family all their life, and in consequence has not been allowed to make decisions that are kind of basic, like what they want to eat, what they want to wear, if they want to go out at night or in the evening with their friends, to make complex and more elevated decisions. So first of all, we need to empower them. First of all, we need to raise awareness to them that they have the right to decide. And this is a process in itself. And then we need to take the logical and rational approach of start by enabling them to make legal decisions that are increasingly complex over time, with more elements for them to choose, for more elements for them to decide. For us, that's one approach. But it's not easy to work with the paternalism in society, the paternalism still ingrained in families, because at least in our country, which is Mediterranean, it's very protective, it's very nurturing of vulnerable persons, such as persons with disabilities. And
Right.
changing this concept, it's kind of like the matter of the essence, no, in a way, because we still receive, even if we do this enabling approach and co-creating approach on life planning, life management. Yes, but why my son has this or decided this? Why you were not protecting them? As if decisions, as if providing good support is closing the person in a home, in a residential facility, and not exactly.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
I think that thank you, Jean-Pierre, for underlining this, but we don't allow anyone to fail, you know, and failure is part of the life, and it's the way we learn and how we process the information, and we build, and we know how to keep going. So I mean, PJ is not here anymore, but from what he was saying about the culture to overcome, I guess that also, you know, in northern countries, there is still this tendency of, you know, protection and in certain situations. So it's very interesting. We have a question from Nellis. I mean, I can read it, or we can open maybe the mic, I don't know. But anyway, for now, I will read it. I wonder if there is a more detailed document about the organization of Circle for Support describing the last part, but maybe a part of the document. I don't know, Betty, if you want to say a few words more on this circle of support.
Yes, we do have a project also on circles of support and living labs specifically. However, they're starting, so we do not have the resources as of yet to suggest anything. But I invited Nellis to reach out, so maybe we can find the ways to get the news out when we do, and have edited useful and quality documents. I know that there are resources, existing resources everywhere to get inspiration from, but for us, it's not the case yet.
Thank you very much. So another, yes, Ludmila, sorry.
Yes, sorry for that, but I would like
No.
I would like just to add a little bit on this circle of support, because we used a lot this circle of support, but we
Great, thanks.
But we call it like support groups in communities. We use the circle of support during the deinstitutionalization of persons with intellectual disabilities, and practically we created these groups of support based on analysis of circle of support for this person in communities. And after that, we develop person-centered plans, you know, jointly with a circle of support or with supported groups from communities. And everyone from these support groups understood better, you know, what is the needs of these persons with disabilities and his families. And practically all of them, because they are part of these communities, they had some resources, you know, to support the persons. And they have been involved also in the implementation of all of these activities, supporting persons with disabilities to better integrate, you know, in the communities, to find a job, or if that's a child with disabilities, to be integrated in the kindergarten, to be integrated in the school, and so on. And I would like to say that this model, like circle of support or community support groups, it is very good even to fight stigma and discrimination at the community level, you know, because it's a very good approach. Thank you very much.
Yeah. No, but thank you for completing this, and somehow it's still answering, you know, to the question how we change the culture, you know, involving the community and creating, opening the discussion. So thank you very much. Another question that I had, I mean, here again, we are talking and at European level, having different countries, and once again we see that how documents or decisions that are making at international or European level can have an impact, you know, and boost the rules at national level. But also on the other hand, in the case of Catalonia, for instance, you know, how the local decisions and the organization boosting and pushing the local government, the regional governments can also be taken as an example to bring in Europe and say, this can be done, this is something feasible, so let's ask everyone else to implement and doing this. So my question is then about the transferability. Also to Jean-Pierre and Beth, you know, you were saying that you have different size villages that you are testing the tools. PJ was saying more or less the same things, that they tested their pilot on different places with different situations. So I'm sure that in Spain is a bit the same. So how do you see this, that there can be this transferability and this exchange among us, that somehow is also the question of how we as EASPD, you know, can really support and even more boost somehow all these the changement on this topic. I don't know if someone felt to.
I think that to summarize what you said, Alessia, is that we need to think global, but act local. And the other way around, no? The act local can also be transferable with a global approach. That's why when I'm talking about super decision making, I always start with the process of taking decisions. No, if we think a way of making the concept of risk management, positive risk taking, safeguarding evolve from this paternalism, from this protection based on vulnerability and based on proactive support, on proximity, on prevention, but in a positive light, and we can frame it under a global perspective, it could be really, really useful for encouraging members or for encouraging member states and countries to change finally their legislation and also deliver better services, because this is something that we can change legislation, but if we cannot transform services to provide this support, it doesn't help, you know.
Yeah, so. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. Yes, Ludmila.
Yes, I could also. I am very inspired with this model of Support Girona, you know, and we visited Support Girona several years ago, practically jointly with the EASPD group, and I'd like to say that that's a very good example on how you can support persons at community level using community resources. And I would like to say that practically what Ferran was talking, that it is very important to have both, like to have policy change and also to have support services at the local level. Here in Moldova, we advocated a lot for policy change. Now we have changed policy. There is no more, you know, people deprived of legal capacities and so on. Everyone has legal capacities, but no, by now we still do not have mechanisms for implementation of support services, and there are no financial resources for support services. And from this point of view, I think it's a huge problem, even huger for persons with disabilities, because they even do not have guardians, you know, to support them now. And that's why I do think that here we need to, when talking about the transferability, we need to think on both sides, you know, not only changing the legislation, but also changing development of services and changing the services, and also changing the mind at community level and capacity building. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you very much. Betty, Jean-Pierre, do you have a last word before closing?
I don't have any. I just wanted to say thank you again for inviting us and giving us this spot at this discussion. It was really interesting. I'm glad to see Ferran again because we see each other often, but yeah, and discovering other people's best practices and getting inspiration from that is very valuable. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, I will thank too for this invitation, and I hope I will be inspired of all the project, and I will get comment dit, I will give a report in 6 months, and I hope it will work, I'm sure.
Good. Thank you very much, and we will be waiting for your updates. So I want to also remember before closing, in the report that Clara, on which Clara worked very hard, there are other cases that are also very interesting. So don't hesitate to give a look, to read. If you have questions, of course, you can write to us, you can write to Clara directly. We are very happy to support any kind of exchange that can be can happen between members, but not only. So thank you very much to all the speakers for being here with us today. Thank you very much for all the participants that stayed until now. And but I wish you nice lunch, and see you to the next Knowledge Café. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.